Today on the show, we've been asking an important question. If marijuana could be the secret weapon to fighting the opioid crisis. The National Academy of Sciences believes that it works for pain. This year it published that. In states where medical marijuana is legal, listen carefully, where it is legal in those states, there's a 25% lower opioid overdose death rate. That's a lot of lives. It's the right time to prove that marijuana can help with chronic pain. Without a shadow of doubt, we get that across, we can change everything, open up a potential opportunity for a lot of people who are suffering.
Joining us now is Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, great to see you.
Thank you.
What's the connection between marijuana and opioid abuse?
I believe that it can treat the underlying pain that people usually take opioids for in the first place.
You think pot can?
I think pot can. I think it can treat the withdrawal. One of the reasons people can't quit opioids is because they have these withdrawal symptoms, which is very similar to the sort of chemotherapy symptoms people have with cancer patients. And we know it can treat that. It can treat these withdrawal symptoms the same way, the same mechanism. And the most interesting thing to me, Alice, and the thing I sort of learned while making this documentary was that opioids change your brain. They change your brain, they do it quickly. That's what people mean when they say that's a brain disease. And it changes a very specific part of the brain. If you continue to take opioids, that part of your brain doesn't heal. Research now shows CBD, which is a component of marijuana, cannabis, can heal that part of the brain.
Is that right?
Yeah, it can help treat the underlying brain disease that's fueling the addiction.
I didn't know it was reversible.
I didn't either, and this some of what I'm talking about is happening real time. This is research that is happening right now. If you had to design something, design a substance de novo that could help lead us out of this opioid epidemic, it would probably look very much like cannabis. I think what I came to understand, Alice, and I think it's a large message here, is that most of the funding for marijuana research in this country was funding for studies designed to look for harm. In fact, 96% of the studies that we looked at, their question was, how does marijuana cause harm? Only single-digit percentage of studies actually looked at benefits. So if you looked at it from the macro point of view, you would say, does it cause cancer? Does it cause addiction? Does it cause all these other problems? You wouldn't be particularly impressed. I started to look at non-federally funded labs, and I started to leave the country and look at other places, other countries that are doing this research for a long time, and a different picture started to emerge. And it became clear from some of these researchers I was talking to, not only could this be a medicine, there were times when it could be a medicine when nothing else had worked. Everything else had failed, this could come in and rescue. You know, we're in the middle of this opioid epidemic. It is the worst self-inflicted epidemic in our history. Tens of thousands of people dying. I mean, you know, it has plateaued our life expectancy in the United States. All the great things we do in medicine and to try and push back the frontiers, those are all being totally obviated by this self-inflicted epidemic. Taking a couple of aspirin and toughing it out, it's a disconnect with what's happening out there. Not to mention that if you start taking opioids because you get a prescription, within a few days, your brain changes. The idea of telling people to just say no is egregious, according to the researchers I talked to. It's just not possible. And we understand that better than ever. So there has to be something done about this epidemic.
We have got to figure out what to do about it. I don't know a family that hasn't been touched. We have to find our way out of this epidemic.
I completely agree. I completely agree. Tens of thousands of lives.
A lot of the patients I talked with who turned to medical marijuana for help weren't turning to medical marijuana because of its benefits or the balance of risks and benefits or because they thought it was a wonder drug, but because it gave them control over their illness. It let them manage their health in a way that was productive and efficient and effective and comfortable for them.
Good evening and welcome to 60 Minutes. I had some firm and, I thought, informed views about using marijuana as medicine, especially for children. But what I've just seen has changed my thinking altogether, and I'm not alone. Politicians, doctors and patients are doing the same. This is Charlotte Figgy, a happy 7-year-old. But a couple of years ago, that wasn't the case.
I was actually praying for her to just pass because it was so difficult to watch her struggle, and what kind of a life was that for a person? I thought it would just be better for her to just die peacefully in her sleep some night. And I, you know, it's hard to admit that, but I thought that would be better than going through what she was going through every 30 minutes.
You were losing your daughter.
I was losing her.
This is what Charlotte and her mum, Paige Figgy, were dealing with every 30 minutes. It's heartbreaking, but important to watch, as this one video has almost single-handedly changed America's medical marijuana laws.
Every seizure took something from her. If it was words or speech or walking or, motor skills, she would wake up and come out of the seizure and have lost something that we had to regain. So we were always reteaching skills, and she'd lose them, and reteaching skills. And then she just started to decline and regress. When she was 5, she really hit her lowest point.
Charlotte has Dravet syndrome, a very rare genetic mutation that causes epilepsy and is mostly untreatable. Running out of time and options, the Figgy family turned to cannabis oil. And after just a few drops, Charlotte's life changed immediately. And the results were?
The results were amazing. She was 300 seizures a week, 300 falling down grand mal seizures a week, to 0 after the first week of medicine.
Not one.
Not one seizure.